with John Kander and Fred Ebb, their whole thought is we can entertain you, but we can also tell you something, but we have to entertain you first. And they sort of established that idea of whether it's a cabaret or in Chicago, we're going to go to someplace theatrically dangerous, but we're going to do it with really great music and some funny lyrics. And when we've sort of pulled you into this place, you might look up and wonder where you are at that point. You don't know what's happened. And with the Scottsboro Boys, Fred was very specific that we had to entertain the audience. They loved the story, and the story came first, but how you entertained the audience was going to become the key to being able to tell a message that might have a little bit more edge to it. Now, you can do it another way, and it's been done. It's just that, beautifully, it's just that this is the hallmark of Kander and Ebb, and that's what we embraced, and that's how we made the piece be able to say something, but also say something with, and entertain you at the same time.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, because with Next to Normal, Brian and I were really sticklers about the way the story was going to come off, and not making it feel like if you're telling us, if you're writing a musical about mental illness, that you're being hit over the head, that you're being preached to, but actually you're being pulled into the story with characters that you care about, with material that you hopefully respond to. And you know, I've been fortunate enough to teach and to be taught and to work with artists that inspire me, and who are always talking about the great songs of musical theater. And so for me as a composer, that's where I start. I feel like I want to try my best to continue that tradition and write songs that people want to sing, want to listen to, care about. And so with Next to Normal, it was all of those things coming together. It was really making sure that we had a good story that people wanted to know about, characters people liked, and then material, and a way to tell the story that felt theatrical, that felt different, so that people walked out having lots of things to talk about in their experience, and hopefully falling in love with a number of them.
I've never been in a musical where so many grown men have come to me after and said, you know, I usually go to these things with my wife. My wife drags me to these shows, and I usually fall asleep, but man, I just really had a great time. And I think that one of the really fun aspects of Memphis is that the character that I play, Huey Calhoun, is so not your average leading man. He's just quirky and annoying at times. I said it. Not unlike me. But he's an everyman, and so I think one of the important things about our show is that it showcases this just guy who's a lot like everybody else, but he's doing something or trying to do something extraordinary, and he falls along the way, and he maybe doesn't get as far as he wants to, but he is in essence, you know, every one of us basically. Our show is, and our show also tells that one of the most amazing American stories we have, and I think does it in a big Broadway way, which is hard to do given the subject matter. I'll pass it along to you.
I'll agree with Chad. I think what really works for Memphis is that we're telling a story that's, first of all, never been told on Broadway before and in this way. And because it's part of our American history and all of us are in some way familiar with it, blues and blues turning into rock and roll, but we've never met these characters. We don't know every word of this music. Everything about it is new. I think that sense of discovery that the theater, particularly the music theater, can bring to an audience is really magical and really works for us, because we really have an opportunity to introduce characters and introduce lifestyles and introduce a locale that is exciting and that is full of flavor and texture and draws you in. I think a great vault opens at the beginning of Memphis, and when it closes behind you, you just experience this whole place, and you're flung out again at the end, and it's all light and beauty in a completely mixed, beautiful area. So we are I think in our case in Memphis, we celebrate the art form, but we also celebrate the kind of history that we can tell about Americans and about something that is so very American, rock and roll, and do it in a way that really enlightens our audiences as well as entertains them.
I hate going after you. You get so lost in everything you're saying. I'm like, what was I going to say? I've been planning it for like 5 people. I would be lying by saying that I got the message of Yank at the first reading the script when I first read it. I didn't, and I'm not a good reader of scripts. I never have been. Thank God, I guess well. As to the projects I'm going to do, but I was most interested, very honestly, in the character that I got to play, Artie. That he was, kind of like what you said, Chad, a character that I had not seen before. An extremely strong, confident, gay character who just went through the world, and this is in the 1940s, and one of my first questions to David and Joe was, is this real? Like, did this guy really exist, or is this some sort of kind of made-up character so that you can serve the story? And they said, no, he's one of the most true characters. He's the one who's based most in truth on characters that on people that lived back in the 1940s. So immediately that made it extremely attractive to me. I think it's a tricky place when you're still working on a piece as an actor to try and carry the theme along with you when you come out. At least it's hard for me. If I start to go out on stage thinking about the theme and what I'm supposed to be saying and all of that, it becomes difficult because you're like, well, how do I play that? And so, again, and this is just for me. Everyone has their own. Every actor has their own thing. But for me, I try to concentrate on the words that David gave me, the music, the lyrics, and let that serve. And hopefully the theme will come bubbling out of it. And I think because of their work, it does. And so in terms of how the theme affects me, I think that would, I love it. I love that the theme of the show. But I try to just serve it rather than maybe think about it. I can think about it now. I like it.
Another chance of
Yes, I am. In a lot of ways.
Well, of course, for the Kaj, it's really kind of interesting to me because this is the 3rd time up to bat on Broadway. It's won the Tony every time it's been up. Jerry Herman has become sort of a buddy, and I'm checking in with him, during the whole process of the show. Because he can't be here a lot because he has a bad back, and lots of obvious reasons for Jerry. It's hard, so he likes me to report. And I remember him. The first phone call was, "Are they kissing at the end?" And I said, "Well, they have to." And he said, and he was really worried about it. In 1983, with the AIDS scourge, it was this big, glitzy, wonderful show, but you really couldn't feel what the show was about on some level because everybody was terrified of the whole gay scenario. So I think psychically you just sort of blocked a bit. And now it's just like fully open-hearted. And this little sugar-coated show with more reprises of songs than I've ever heard in my life. Shamelessly reprised. But wonderful melody. So it's, I couldn't get it in my hand. Something. It's okay. I know it's called. It's making a real difference. People come back, and you can actually see them in the show. People crying. I mean, this is Jerry Herman. This is like, marches and big, exuberant melodies, and they are so touched because between Kelsey and Douglas Hodge, there is this incredible bond, and there's this incredible love affair. And before you know it, and Douglas, in his rendition of the character, first comes off as a menopausal woman, and then he's a drag queen, and then he's mother, and then he's just a guy at the end. So he goes from being over the top at the top to being just a guy at the end, And you look at this human, and you look at him at the end as a human being, not as a man, a woman, a gay person, a straight person. And you look at their relationship and their family, it's just a family like any other with a few